The Sahara Desert, another name for death itself. In 1994, a man vanishes without a trace in the middle of a marathon, disappearing from among 134 runners. No body, no clues. Then, 9 days later, he reappears across a border in a place no one expected. This is the story of Italian police officer Mauro Prosperi, the man even death refused to accept. Welcome back to Zemversetv. Today's story belongs to an Italian police officer named Mauro Prosperi, a man deeply passionate about the pentathlon, a sport that masters 5 disciplines: fencing, swimming, horse riding, pistol shooting, and running. This obsession was born during his years of duty in Italy's national police force, and that same training forged in him an iron will and an unbreakable spirit that refused to surrender. One day, his friend Giovanni Manzo told him about a race happening in the Sahara Desert, the Marathon des Sables. It is counted among the most brutal races in the entire world. To understand just how terrifying this race is, consider this. Competitors must cover 251 kilometers completely alone, and they have only 7 days to do it. But the most dangerous part? Every runner must carry their own food, cooking gear, clothing, and all necessary supplies in their backpack throughout the entire race. The organizers provide only water at each checkpoint, and in some cases, a tent for the night. Mauro Prosperi and his friend Manzo both decided to enter and began training by running 40 kilometers every day while also practicing reducing their water intake. On April 10th, 1994, when Prosperi was 38 years old, the ultramarathon began from the remote Moroccan settlement of Zougid, a region in the southeastern Tata province of Morocco, where the Sahara begins in its full, terrifying form. The race had 134 competitors in total, including Prosperi and Manzo. The first 3 days passed as expected. Together, they successfully covered 96 kilometers. The route was brutally difficult: salt flats with rock-hard surfaces, jagged stone formations, and sand dunes that swallowed your sense of direction entirely. Each morning, they started running in the cool early hours. The desert was so vast that every participant gradually drifted apart from the others, each runner completely alone on the course. The rule was simple: find your own way and reach the next checkpoint. Every runner carried a survival kit, which included a compass and, in case of getting lost, a signal flare gun. The race had 6 stages in total. By April 14th, 1994, Prosperi and his friend Manzo had entered the 4th stage, the longest and most grueling leg of the entire ultramarathon. They had to cover 85 kilometers in just 2 days. It was midday, the sun was pouring fire from above, and the temperature had climbed to 46 degrees Celsius. Prosperi picked up his pace, left his friend Manzo behind, and pushed ahead alone. At that very moment, Prosperi noticed a dust devil forming ahead of him, and within minutes, strong winds began sweeping across the desert. After running 32 kilometers, as the wind intensified, Prosperi adjusted his route and climbed over a large sand dune to shield himself from the direct force of the gusts. But those winds had already transformed into something far sinister, a full-blown sandstorm. Caught in the storm, Prosperi made a calculated decision. If he stopped, he would be buried alive in the sand. So he kept running, straight through the storm. He thought he could see trail markers ahead, but they were nothing more than illusions, tricks his desperate mind was playing on him. Within moments, those markers vanished, and he had drifted miles away from the rest of the racers. Evening came, darkness crept in, but no checkpoint appeared. That was when Prosperi realized he was completely, utterly lost. The storm had left his skin raw and red. Blood was dripping from his nose. His throat, swollen from breathing in continuous sand, had turned into something like a fistful of thorns. Defeated and exhausted, he spent that night curled beside a shrub, his face wrapped in a towel, hoping that the next morning's sun would reveal a new path forward. Day 5. The morning weather was somewhat better. Prosperi ran for 4 straight hours. When he finally climbed to the top of a massive sand dune and looked out in every direction, his blood ran cold. No path, no landmark. As far as his eyes could reach, only sand dunes, stretching endlessly in every direction. By this point, his water supply was nearly gone. To maintain hydration, only one desperate option remained. He was forced to recycle and drink his own body waste just to stay alive. As the 5th day's sun was beginning to set, a sound reached his ears, the distant thudding of a helicopter. It felt like a prayer being answered. Without wasting a single second, Prosperi pulled out his flare gun and fired a signal to catch the pilot's attention. But fate had other plans. The setting sun was blazing so intensely that the flare's light was completely swallowed by its glow. The pilot never saw him. The helicopter disappeared from sight. Prosperi was alone again, stranded in that vast, silent ocean of death. He understood now. No one was coming for him. This fight was between his own will and the merciless Sahara. Day 6. After walking for hours under the burning sun, he spotted something on the distant horizon, an old, crumbling structure. It was an ancient shrine, abandoned for centuries. Hope surged through Prosperi's chest. Perhaps there would be local people nearby, perhaps a water well, but when he stumbled through the entrance with trembling legs, there was no living soul inside, only an old grave and the silence that greeted him. Prosperi refused to break. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small Italian flag, which he climbed up and planted on the roof of the shrine, hoping that some passing aircraft might spot it from above. But the real problem remained: hunger and thirst. His body was drying out from the inside. Then his eyes landed on the bats hanging from the ceiling of the shrine. The will to survive forces a human being to do things unimaginable in any other moment. He caught the bats, slit their throats with his pocket knife, and drank their warm blood just to preserve whatever moisture remained in his body. Over the following days, he survived on those bats, lizards he found along the way, and whatever insects he could catch. At one point, he spotted an airplane in the far distance. He had nothing left to start a fire with to signal it, so he burned his own backpack. But the rising smoke was instantly scattered by the Sahara's fierce winds, and once again, the pilot saw nothing. Day 7. The sinking sun and the crushing loneliness were dismantling his mind piece by piece. He was now convinced he would never make it out of the Sahara alive, and that was the moment a dark thought entered his mind. He didn't want to wait for death to come to him. Using a piece of charcoal, he wrote a farewell message to his family, and then he cut the veins of his own wrist. He lay down inside that ancient shrine, closed his eyes, and waited for a morning he would not wake up to. But even death turned its face away from him. Due to extreme dehydration, his blood had become so thick that instead of flowing out, it clotted directly over the wound. When Prosperi opened his eyes the next morning and saw what had happened, he was stunned even by himself. In that moment, something shifted deep inside him. Even death had rejected him, which meant his journey wasn't over. His destination lay somewhere else. He bandaged his wounds, and with a new resolve burning in his chest, he walked out of that shrine. Having stared death in the face inside those walls, something extraordinary had been reborn within Prosperi. He pulled out his compass and set his sights towards a distant mountain range. From that point on, he traveled only in the early morning and at dusk, resting under whatever shrubs he could find during the scorching midday heat. At night,
he buried himself in the sand to preserve his body's warmth. Whenever he found any plant or bush along the way, he squeezed its roots and swallowed the bitter drops of moisture they offered. He chewed raw snape meat. He ate insects. His body had become little more than a skeleton. He had lost nearly 15 kilograms. Day 8. In the distance, he spotted a patch of green, a small oasis with a muddy pool of water sitting in the earth. He wanted to drink it desperately, but his throat was so swollen that every sip felt like swallowing broken glass. Slowly, drop by drop, he forced the water down. He spent the entire day doing nothing but quenching that thirst. Day 9. Walking in complete exhaustion, he noticed something in the sand, goat droppings.
He followed the trail until he found the goats themselves, being herded by a small girl. It was the first human being he had seen in 6 days. Prosperi ran toward her immediately, but his appearance was so horrifying that the girl took one look at him and fled in terror. By sheer luck, she returned this time with her grandmother. The desert people, moved by the sight of this broken man, gave him shelter and food, but his stomach was too destroyed to hold anything down. Every bite he took came straight back up. The villagers placed him on a camel and sent him to the nearest military camp. There, he was immediately arrested on suspicion of being a spy. When his identity was finally confirmed, the truth was staggering. Mauro Prosperi had wandered out of Morocco and crossed into Algeria. He was approximately 291 kilometers off course from his race route. His wife and family had already mourned him. They had given up hope. But when his first phone call reached home 9 days later, all of Italy erupted in celebration. Prosperi was kept in hospital for several days. Doctors stated plainly that the damage to his organs was so severe that by any medical logic, he should have been dead. But his will had refused to let him die. And here is what makes this story truly extraordinary. Even after all of this, Prosperi's love for the Sahara never died. He went on to compete in the same race 6 more times, even finishing in 13th place on one occasion. Today, Mauro Prosperi is 70 years old, but his spirit remains exactly what it always was. He says, "The same Sahara that tried to take my life, that very Sahara taught me the true meaning of living." We hope you enjoyed this video from Zemversetv. Thank you so much for your warm comments and continued love. See you in the next incredible story.